All right, let me go ahead and delete these things, and we will go ahead and open up Edit Mesh. And for now, I'm just going to scoot this off the workspace. I'll bring it back over if I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a polygon cube once again. And we're going to just look at add divisions. So if I just click the button, you can see it just adds divisions. Basically, every face becomes 4 faces. We can do it again. And there's probably, if we go to our poly sub D face 1, which is what the add divisions is called over here in our inputs, apparently, we can probably just say 2. And you can see automatically we get more faces added. Okay, so that is add divisions. And if we wanted to bevel something, before we get into that stuff, I just want to show you a couple hotkeys that you can do that are useful with polygon edges. If I double click an edge, it will get what is called the edge loop. So that's the edge loop. And so long as there is a straight line I can figure out, you'll go ahead. I just have the 4 key, by the way. So the 4 key takes me into wireframe. The 5 key is wireframe, or is shaded. Where is it? F8 to go into object mode. And 6 is going to be with textures, and then 7 is lit. So I don't have any lights in the scene. So 5, 6, and 7 don't look that different. So, sorry, 5 and 6 don't look that different. But 7 obviously does because there are no lights. All right, so and then you may also have noticed that I have my wireframe on, wireframe on shaded, and you may not. So if you go over to shading, there's an option here to have wireframe on shaded. So that should, you can see if the object is deselected now, even though it is deselected, I still have my wireframe visible. So it'll show up, you should, if I turn this off, right, so you can see the wireframe if it's selected. Anyway, your choice there, it's just the wireframe on shaded. All right, so if I go to right click and then select edge, yeah, I can go ahead and double click on an edge and it will grab the entire loop. I can also select the edge ring, and the way that I do that is by clicking one edge on the ring and then holding shift and double clicking the next edge on the ring. So these are rings and this is a loop. So there you go. You can also, if you want, you can go to select. Where is it? It's like convert selection to edge ring, or select convert selection to edge loop. Right. And you can see with the loop, as soon as it hits an edge where it's not sure which direction you want to go, it stops. So you will hear a lot of people talk about staying in quads. And the reason for that is it makes it a lot easier to do these kinds of operations where you're selecting the entire ring. There are also other reasons. The way the geometry deforms when it's in quads is more predictable. So like if you have some geo that you're trying to animate, it's better to stay in quads. But quads can be suboptimal in other scenarios. We'll cover that stuff down the road a little bit. But anyway, if you double click on an edge, you will get the loop. And if you select one edge and then hold shift and double click the next edge, you'll grab the ring. So we were gonna look at bevel. So I'm gonna double click this loop here and hit bevel. And you can see it's basically just going to average the two incoming face angles and give you a little chisel there. And you can, if you grab the fraction, you can change what the value is and dial in whatever you actually need there. And you can see it doesn't go all the way around. And if I were to do this on a loop like this, the result is going to look a little bit different. It's basically just going to add 2 loops where once there was one. So that is bevel. If I want to change the configuration of the geometry so that it is circular, I have this circularize option here, and that's what that looks like. It can be very useful. I'm going to jump ahead just for a moment to show you why this is cool. I'm going to grab extrude, so I'll click that. And then if I grab these arrows here, I can scoot this down. So what I do with extrude is it's just duplicating the whatever my selection is and giving me the option to kind of punch it in or pull it out or whatever. And it doesn't have to be circular, it can be a single face or a whole bunch of faces. So that is now a nice circle, nice-ish circle. I'm not sure what happened over here. I probably had a face selected that I did not mean to select. Yeah, that's probably what happened. All right, always be aware of that. If you do like a drag select, you're going to get the faces on either side of your selection, whether or not you want them. What you can do in that case, if you go to shading, it's called backface culling. I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, there's another way to do that. I think there's some in the selection, and we'll get to that at some point, but we can worry about that a little later on. That's not exactly what I want to be talking about. Just something to be aware of, that if you are selecting things, you just kind of want to double check. You can also just tap the 4 key to confirm that you don't have any errant faces selected. So that is circularize. Collapse basically just does that. We're just taking all of the faces that are selected and we are collapsing them. So it's pretty good about collapsing stuff. If you only have a few things selected, it'll like make good decisions about how to collapse that. But it can get a little bit strange. Like this is off center, right? Like it should have probably kept this line the same, but instead it decided against that. So there is somewhere around here, there's merge to center, and that's going to give you kind of what you want. So the difference between merge and collapse is pretty subtle. I'm not really sure why both of these options are in here, but maybe let's see if we do a merge. Yeah, I guess collapse might be face oriented and merge might be edge oriented or edge and vert oriented. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so merge doesn't actually work on faces and collapse does. So there you go. Okay. Let's see, so connect, if I grab a couple of edges and I hit connect, it will make an edge connecting those two edges. And if I grab an entire ring and I hit connect, it will make an edge that basically connects all of those. If I want to delete an edge, this is actually fairly important. I'll probably mention this again a few times. I can just hit the delete key, but if I go to vertex, I have left all of the verts there still on those edges, and that is going to cause lots and lots of problems. So what you want to do is you want to actually hold Control and backspace, and that will delete both the edges and the associated verts on those edges, so you can get something that's nice and clean. Again, that is Control and backspace to delete edges, where you are also going to be removing the verts, which is the preferred behavior. Okay, let's see, what do we have? We got detach. So I'm just going to select this top row of faces here, and we'll go to detach. And now if I tap the W key, let me change one little thing here to world. Now I can scoot these up and they are separate pieces of geometry. It's not that different from extract. The difference being that with extract, let me drop it back down. So if I select these top faces again, I go to extract. Extract, first of all, has some options. And what those options are you can separate extracted faces, which is the default, and then I guess you can also offset them. So you get something like this. And I don't really know why exactly you would want that. Wow. Strange results. I don't know. So I use extract and detach sort of back and forth, but I'd never really give it an offset value. So, and another thing about detach that's useful, once it's detached, like I'm just moving it up just so you see it, but once things are detached and you no longer have them welded, you can go over to mesh and then separate, and now we have our two meshes and of course the stuff that I showed you before with the issues there. So I'm just going to back up so that we can get back to our state here, our regular state. Okay, cool. All right, let's see. So that's detach and then extrude. We already talked about very briefly. I will just grab one of these faces and one of these and one of these maybe, and we'll extrude. And even though I'm only getting my transform widget over here, the relative changes that I'm able to make are going to be, they're going to have the same relative effect on all of my selected faces that I have just extruded. Including, if I want, I can just, so I've already extruded them. So here I'm pulling them together. So this is a scale, sort of a uniform scale that's affecting all of them. Let me back up a little bit here, grab some of these faces. We'll do that same thing again. Where was it? Extrude. So if you grab the scale here, you can actually just do something along these lines. One very useful command in Maya is the G key. If you tap the G key, it's gonna repeat whatever your last command was. So I can just basically repeat my extrude, and then I've got some extra geometry to support this extruded geo here. And that will become meaningful once we start talking about subdivisions like this kind of stuff here. But that's just the 3 key, by the way. I think I might have mentioned that already. But yeah, 3, 2, and 1 will show you the low poly wireframe around the sub-D result, and then the final sub-D, the sub-D saying for subdivision. Okay, so that's extrude, and then merge. So what merge is going to do is, if you've got two, let me find some verts here, like these little verts here. If I wanted all of the verts on a mesh that were, well, let me just pick these here for now. So we'll go to merge. So if I hit apply, you can see that those selected verts there, they just merged. But if I grab these two and I hit apply, right. So if you've got, basically what's going on here is, if I've only got 2 selected, it's always going to merge them. And that's not really what I'm trying to show you. I'm going to go ahead and go to object mode, and we'll try this again. And we see nothing happening. So, but if I wanted to go through all of the edges that were this length or near that length on the mesh and collapse them, what you can do is you can just kind of walk this value to be larger and larger, and eventually they will be located and collapsed. So, okay, we're at 11 minutes or 12 minutes now, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and we will pick up the rest of these in the next video.